So this is going to be Amber's eighth crack at this.
Eight.
I think I am ready if everybody else is ready. Or do we have anything we should be saying about it?
I don't have anything.
Not me neither. I'm ready too.
All right. Beep number one.
Okay, so beep number one, I had just finished sighing and I turned my face back toward a screen I was holding and I caught the whiteness of the screen. And there were words on it, like text, but I didn't see the text. I had just caught in the whiteness of the screen. And the sigh itself, the beep had gone off right as I finished it, so I would say sigh, beep. That makes sense. So, anyway, that kind of presented itself as I was looking at the white screen after I turned back as kind of like a release of tension in my shoulders. Like it kind of almost relaxed my shoulders. That's kind of how I would describe that, how that presented itself.
And so am I understanding that I have sighed, and in the sighing my shoulders become relaxed, and at the end of that something, the end of that sigh, the beep comes, and maybe it's right at the end or maybe it's a microsecond after the end. It's sort of hard to tell. And at the same time, rising up in my experience, overtaking my experience at the moment of the beep, is the whiteness of the screen.
Yeah, it was like the beginning of looking at the screen and the end of the whole thing with the sigh. That's right where it went off.
Okay. And I'm seeing the whiteness of the screen, not the screen, not the whole screen, not the other characteristics of the screen. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say that the whiteness though was obviously bordered because it was only so whatever, but what I was noticing was kind of the white of it, the screen, the light almost was white, and I wasn't really seeing the text quite yet. I was just seeing the white.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so is it fair to say that these are sort of overlapping, that the one is on the rise and the other is on the wane, and
yeah, it was one was just finishing, if I would describe it like a book, it was the last 2 pages of a book, and then the other one was the first 2 pages of a book.
Okay.
It's kind of weird.
And is one of them more salient to you, more present to your experience at the as best you can say, the moment of the beep?
Not really. It was kind of interesting. Yeah, not really. I wouldn't say that just because it was almost I don't know. It was almost, I don't know how to describe what was kind of happening, but it just felt like one was closing and one was starting.
Okay.
So it didn't feel like anything was more.
So let's start with the sigh then. This sigh, I guess, could mean some air exhaling out of my mouth or nose or something, and it could be that this is just a way of shrugging my shoulders, a physical kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, as a fact of the universe, I did make a noise, kind of I don't know. It wasn't a it was kind of more I don't know how to describe that, but I did make a little bit of a noise. But that was well before. And then by the end, it was the end. That had stopped, and then I could feel my shoulders relaxing because I did that. Yeah.
So at the moment of the beep, this is a shoulder thing, not a nasal or oral or something thing. Is that right?
Yeah, because the sound was already finished.
Okay.
And then the remnants of it, I would say, are the relaxing of the shoulders.
Okay. And anything more to say about the shoulders? Top shoulders, bottom of shoulders, just the shoulders in general?
The shoulders in general, almost like the muscles, when you kind of exhale and your shoulders kind of go down, that's kind of
slumping of the shoulders.
Yeah, but I would almost call them relaxing, because I feel sometimes when I sit, if you sit straight, you hold your shoulders up, but then they kind of did that.
All right.
Yeah.
So what I'm gathering here is that this is really sort of 2 physical-ish sensations, or two sensations, not physical-ish, but two sensations. One, the physical relaxing of my shoulders, and the other is the whiteness of the screen.
Yes, yes. And I would describe that maybe a little bit better would be, it was similar to, I think last time I had the one where I turned my head and I caught a few words. It's almost like that because I turned my head and I caught the whiteness of the screen. It's kind of what was going on there.
Mm-hmm. And sooner or later, you're going to integrate the whiteness of the screen into being a screen with words on it and whatever.
Yes.
But not yet.
Not yet, no.
Then I think I'm good. Cody?
Yep, I'm good as well for this beep.
Okay.
All right, number 2.
Okay, so beep 2, I was walking down our hallway, and okay, this is a little bit of context just so that what I say is going to make sense. So the way our hallway is, there was like light at one end, but there was no light at the other end because it's a room and the lights are off. So I was like looking at the dark, it was like a dark room, and I was carrying a bunch of stuff. So I was frustrated because I was carrying so much stuff. So the moment of the beep, I was looking at the dark room, like it was like black. I was just looking at that. And then I was feeling I was feeling tense. I was feeling kind of frustrated because I was carrying so many things. Yeah, that's how I would describe that.
Okay. And both of those, I take you to be saying there's the looking at the dark hallway, at the dark room stuff and the frustration stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And both of those, like either one of those more present?
Definitely the feeling.
So can I, before we get too far down that road, are you actually seeing the blackness, or is it the case that your eyes are aimed in that direction, and now when we have to describe it, we say it's a black room? The question is whether that's an experience, whether it's...
Right. I was seeing it for sure, but I'm trying to think of a best way to describe that because it was almost like, because it's light fading out into, because there's light behind me, but there isn't light in front of me. So of course there's light kind of fading on the side. So I don't really know how to describe it. I don't know if I would describe it as the blackness, but I was looking into like darkness, and that's what I was seeing because it was getting a little bit hard to see.
And by seeing it, you are intending to convey that you are experiencing that, not just that your eyes are focusing on the darkness or whatever.
Yeah, like just a little bit how it was a little bit, it's getting difficult to see. Yeah.
And that's, I'm going to pound on this one more time. I want to make sure that that's an experiential thing, not just a fact of Amber's visual processing, that the light's changing, appearing, hasn't seen. The quick question is whether you, so the point that I'm asking here is that your body makes all kinds of adjustments all the time. Right now you're adjusting the way you sit and whatever. And those are outside of your awareness most of the time. Sometimes they're in. So the question is this seeing, what we're calling seeing, something that's taking place outside of your awareness, or is that I'm also noticing this?
Right. It was there, but I would say really little.
Okay.
Like it was very, very little.
Okay. So let's turn at least now to the frustration, or what we're calling the frustration for now. And so how exactly was that present to you?
Okay, so it was almost like, I would describe it as like holding my breath. That's how I would describe it. Because, I just felt kind of interrupted. I don't know. Or, no, I was interrupted. But I would almost describe that as like holding my breath, because I was trying to get to what and where I needed to go and all that stuff like that. Was trying to get to that quickly.
So this is sort of like this is a physical sensation.
Yeah. But it's also in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, I think. Because I was physically walking. I wasn't like sitting and feeling it, right? I think most of the time when I'm describing feelings, I'm sitting. This time I was actually walking. I wasn't just still.
this is an emotional experience with the bodily component or physical component.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. Yeah.
And
I might have been distracted. Hadn't heard the emotional portion. Did I just space out for that?
well, I took you to be saying like it's both like this holding my breath sort of thing, as well as somehow this other part
mind.
of frustration as something that's in your mind too, simultaneously.
Yes.
So I guess that's what got me a little bit confused. So is this a frustration thing or a hyper careful?
Frustration thing.
Okay. That's the part that I missed.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
so we do mean this as something of a mental emotional reaction to the balancing of the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, to what was going on too. Yeah.
Okay.
So in terms of the bodily or physical stuff about this, right? You described it as holding my breath. Is that to say this is like this is like my chest being tight or something else? How is that holding my breath present?
Yeah. It was almost like an interruption. I would almost describe it as like when somebody startles you and it kind of, you kind of stop for a second, but it didn't feel like you stopped for a second. It felt like I stopped for like a few, like maybe a minute or two, because I was just, I don't know how to describe that better. Like it just felt like a stop.
Suspended animation.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this, because I wouldn't say it felt like if I was like swimming and holding my breath, or if something smelled bad and I was holding my breath. It almost felt like I don't know, like a quick, I don't want to call it a gasp because it didn't feel like a gasp, but like kind of like when you gasp really quickly and you don't breathe for a second. It's kind of how I would describe that, but not obviously for a second. It was for like a little bit longer than that.
So it's not so much a holding a breath in, but sort of like you said, you called it an interruption, right? But like almost like, I guess you're like I'm thinking of maybe like if you're holding a bunch of stuff, maybe it's like you're not straining exactly, but kind of tensing tensing. I don't know if that.
Yeah, I think that's closer to the best way to describe that in words. Yeah.
And when you say an interruption, it's not like that's the beat caught that, and so when I look back, it's an interruption. I took you to be saying this is like at the moment there's something about like my breath being interrupted or
about feeling interrupted. Like I was frustrated because, and then it presented itself almost as if like when you were normally functioning, as if that was interrupted. Like normally breathing and normally relaxed and normally in your state of being, that felt like that was interrupted.
So I want to make sure I get this right, because I don't think I quite got it yet. Is this about my breathing?
Maybe not. No, not really. I think I just described it like that. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe that. That's why. Because it almost felt like a stopping, but not necessarily a stopping of my breathing, but
a stopping of anything bodily that might tilt this precarious stack of stuff that you're carrying. Is it?
Yeah, maybe not the stuff per se, but like kind of stop my what is like the word, like my equilibrium, not my equilibrium. I don't want to call it like my balance, but like my internal balance of the self. It sounds very spiritual, but like something like that, or my homeostasis or something like that.
I put my existence on hold for a minute so that I don't spill these books or spill this stuff.
Yeah, and that I get to where I'm going to do what I have to do.
Okay. And now I'm still a little bit confused about the frustration portion. So putting myself on hold doesn't seem like frustration to me, but maybe I just haven't grasped it yet.
Yeah.
And And I want to make sure that we're not talking about in reaction to the beep.
Yes.
So
Yes.
once the beep begins, we're done. We don't care about whatever. Oh, pshaw! I've been interrupted by the beep. That doesn't matter.
Right.
So is there a feeling of frustration that is part of this experience before?
Yes.
the beep?
Yeah. It's a feeling that I would describe as frustration. Because feelings are hard to describe.
And is the frustration the same thing as what we're talking, this stoppedness of my existence? And is that another way of saying frustration?
Yeah, that's how I would say that situation presented itself to me. Because instead of saying like, I feel frustration, I recognize that I feel frustration. It's more like I feel frustration, and that's kind of how it presented itself to me at that moment. I'm sure it could be described as other things to other people, but like at that moment, that's kind of how that feeling was presenting itself to me.
I'm sorry. I think I was distracted when that came up. I wanted to, Amber, when you said how that presented, are you talking about, is this entirely like that stopping, that interruption? Like that's when you say frustration, that's what it's all about? Or is there both sort of like a stopping of my existence or homeostasis as well as some sort of additional simultaneous way that somehow I'm frustrated?
Oh, okay. No, it was more like that whole situation, that physicalness and all that stopping and whatever. That's how what I would describe as frustration presented itself to me at that moment. Because, yeah.
Okay. Dr. Hobart, do you have any more questions about that
No.
part? Okay. And so the seeing, when you said this was like a much smaller portion, again, in terms of ballpark, is that like, 199 or?
Be like 90, 10, 95, 5.
Okay.
It was super low down the line.
And so could you tell me again what exactly you're seeing?
It was like darkness, but it was like, I don't know how to describe that any better, because like a fact of the universe is that the light behind me, it's starting to get dim. I don't like what I was seeing was just kind of dark. That's how I would describe that. But it wasn't anything like, it wasn't like a color. It wasn't like anything really specific about the dark, except that it was dark.
And I'm seeing dark as opposed to I'm seeing a dark room?
Yeah, because it was like.
And dark as opposed to like a waning amount of light? Again,
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like I would say that the dark was like central like this, and then it kind of like, in my vision, it was kind of like getting a little bit lighter as it went outwards. But obviously it stopped at some point, but like it's kind of like what it was. Yeah.
So at the moment of the beep, I'm looking at sort of I'm trying to think of the word, like almost like a growing darkness or something. There's a spot in the middle where it's more dark than the rest of it, and it kind of gets less dark around the
outwards, yes.
perimeter of it.
Yes.
Any questions you want to ask Dr. Hobart?
I'm good.
Anything else about that beep, Amber?
No, that was yeah.
Okay. All right.
Number 3.
Okay, so number 3, I was watching This Is Us, and I was seeing the screen, but it wasn't like super, I would say it wasn't super clear or super strong in my experience, because my attention was getting diverted by others in my environment. And I was watching like a grown character, a male, and he was like standing and he was facing towards like my left, and then behind him it was like night, so it was kind of dark behind him, but it was more what I was seeing on TV. That's pretty much it for that one. But yeah, this is just my notes are brief, a very detailed description of what the scene was, rather than
Okay. And at the same time, you're being distracted by or diverted by what's going on in your environment.
yeah.
And is that part of your experience?
No, but that's what made the seeing of the TV kind of like I don't want to say indiscriminate, but like not as clear as it has been in the past. Like it was kind of like not a clear seeing
And
of
is
it.
that, are you sort of speculating about the cause here, so that in your experience is a not as crystally clear TV screen as I've sometimes seen, and I also know about myself or my situation that there's some diversion coming up, but that's not in my experience right now, but it probably is enough to have weakened my clarity. Is that the translation here?
Yeah, that's the best way to say that.
So as far as your experience is concerned, it's all TV.
Mm-hmm.
There's these other things in your environment that are going on, but not yet made it through the weeds of your edge of your experience.
Yes, and it was kind of odd, like this isn't really part of the whole thing, but it was kind of odd because I almost felt like I wouldn't call this experience, if you say seeing the TV, I wouldn't even call that 100%. Like I would call it like 80%. But the other 20%, or maybe not even that low, maybe like 85, 90%. But I don't know what the rest is because I think it was just maybe my focus or I was being a little bit distracted, but it's kind of weird like that.
So in my experience is the waning clarity and maybe sort of the waning experiential quantity, whatever that is, the 80%ish. But what's competing for that 80% hasn't yet.
Yeah, it's not there. It's just like a lack of attention almost to what's happening. Yeah.
Okay. And so let's talk about that. What do you mean by lack of clarity or lack of attention or lack of whatever?
Yeah, like.
Well, maybe I shouldn't even start with that. So what are you seeing?
Oh, I'm seeing, so in This Is Us, the time jumps a lot. So it's the adult version of a character. His name is Kevin, and he's like he's standing on it's closed up on him, so it's like kind of like how we see each other now, like almost like kind of like the chest up, the midsection up, and he's like looking toward the left because he was standing on like a open field. So in his perspective, it's like from here, it's like kind of dark, but it's mainly focused on him, and he was just kind of like standing like to the left like that. But you could see space still.
And I take it that you're describing what's happening on the screen, and you're seeing this.
Yes.
And you're not zooming in on any particular aspect of it. I'm not particularly interested in the darkness around him, and I'm not particularly interested in the adultness of him, and I'm not particularly interested in the profileness of him. No. This is what the screen has presented for me, and I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
But I'm also somehow not seeing it as clearly as I might otherwise see it.
Yeah.
And is that lack of clarity present to me, or is that when I start to write this down, I can see, well, I'm not quite as clear? Or
no, it was a little bit. It was not that clear because, like, when the beep went off, I was kind of, I guess that's speculation after. But when right before the beep, it wasn't that whole situation. It's because I had seen that before I knew what was going on. I didn't feel like I was really absorbing anything that was happening because of my diverted attention. I was kind of just watching it at that point. And I was noticing all of those things, but I wasn't necessarily taking in what the context of the situation was at that moment.
So what I still quite haven't grasped yet is, at the moment of the beep, does Amber recognize that Amber's attention is drifting? Or is it that at the moment of the beep, right before the beep goes on, Amber's attention has drifted, and then when she responds to the beep, she can say, well, Amber's attention wasn't quite fully there. She was.
Yeah, it was the first one. I was kind of feeling distract. I don't want to say I was feeling distracted because that's not part of my experience, but it was almost like I was distracted. Like almost I would describe this almost like in class when you're trying to like when you're doing stuff and you get a little bit your attention gets slightly diverted and you're aware of what's going on, you can see what you're doing, you're writing whatever, but your absorbing is not fully there. You're absorbing of information or of whatever is presenting itself to you. That's how I would describe that, but it's probably not the best way to describe that, but that's how I feel.
And you recognize that this is happening, and that recognition is part of your at the moment of the beep experience. Is that right?
Yeah, like I felt unfocused. I felt not unfocused, but I almost felt like my focus was not 100%. I keep saying the word focus, but I felt like it wasn't 100%.
So I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it one more time.
Okay.
I've asked this 5 or 6 times. So I'm going to ask it this 7th or 8th.
Okay.
This awareness of Amber having lost her focus is itself present in Amber's experience before the beep occurs. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I understood. That's the kind of thing that we would call meta-awareness. That Amber has some meta-awareness of her lack of attention. And that meta-awareness is part of her direct experience, even though what is diverting her attention hasn't yet made its way into her experience.
That's cool. That one, these beeps are kind of interesting because they were very different than what I feel like I normally am talking about.
So let me describe exactly what I've got here. Most of my experience is on the TV. I'm watching, being carried along by the action of the TV. And that's not entirely visual. It's not entirely auditory. I'm taking in the TV. I'm watching TV. But at the same time, I am recognizing in a meta-awareness sense that I'm not fully engaged anymore. And so the clarity of my sensory picking in of the TV is not fully elaborated.
Yeah.
And later I can say, well, there's stuff going on in the room, and that's what has distracted me.
Yeah.
But so far I don't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that the distraction was more context and then the yeah.
Then I think I'm good.
I had a question about when you said, Amber, that, when you're seeing what's happening on the screen, you're watching TV. Is the thing that you're seeing is what's going on the screen? Like, when you say that wasn't clear, is that like I'm seeing a blurry TV, like in some of the past speech where like you were seeing something and it was blurry, or is it less is it just I'm, or something else?
Yeah. It was, I would say, like a tad blurry like that, like a tad, but it was clear enough that that the details of like what I was seeing were clear. Like it wasn't like just a mush of colors or anything like that. Like details were clear, but it wasn't like super, super clear. Like how I would say like a nice picture would look, or how like a focused image or something. It was just like a little like that.
And that has to do with my actual visual experience, right? It's not so much that just as part of this beep, which we talked about already, is that there's this meta awareness that I'm sort of not focused, right? It's I take you to be saying this is more than just, it's not just that I'm not focused and, well, I'm, part of that means that I'm not seeing, but that actually like,
yes, yeah,
I'm seeing TV and it's just not.
It's not happening. Yeah. It's
not okay.
It's not happening right now. Yeah.
And then I'm good for this beep.
Number 4.
Okay, so number 4, I was still watching the same show, This Is Us, and I was seeing now the female Kate, and she was kind of also turned to left. It's kind of interesting, and her dress was the same or a similar color to the room she was standing in, And well, yeah, I wasn't necessarily, and at the moment of the beep, that's kind of what I was seeing, like how she matched the room. But I wouldn't say I was particularly drawn to the blueness or anything that specific. I would just say that when I saw it, I was like, she matches the room. Not, and I wasn't saying that, it was just kind of like a thinking, like, oh, like, she matches the room right now, kind of thing.
And is that, I know you had just said that, but I don't think I quite got it. How is that present to you? How is this present to you?
Like, it was like mostly seeing again, but it was like a small sliver of it was kind of like this. Noticing that the set or the room that they had obviously designed for this scene was the same color as the or similar color, a matching color to the outfit she was wearing. Something like that.
Okay. So I'm both, and by seeing, is that sort of similar to the last beep where, I'm watching what's happening on the screen, like you described the scene, and I'm just watching that? Is that, okay.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing, right, but sort of additional to that, what I'm taking it to be saying, Amber, is that there's some sort of noticing or recognition
of the colors of the scene. Like, those were, like that stood out to me just maybe just slightly a little bit more. Like, I don't know how to describe that, but I wouldn't say I was drawn to the blueness per se, but it was more that it matched, and she just it happened to be the color that was matching was blue.
And is that noticing, like, is that a visual thing? Just another aspect of I'm seeing this, is for something else? I guess my main question is that noticing or that how is that present to you?
Yeah, definitely seeing, and but I would say it's just a very little like thinking, like a thinking about it kind of thing, like, oh, that matches. But I wouldn't say it was a whole process and that took over anything. It was just kind of like a thinking about it, very little bit.
So it isn't totally seeing, right? That this is mostly a seeing thing, but that it's not totally visual. This is not totally seeing. It's not totally just
right.
That.
Yes.
So
yes.
Can I drag my feet a little bit about that? So I think it would be possible to see blue here and see blue here. And as part of that seeing, part of those seeings, have some, this is the same blue as that as part of my visual processing. Make it sort of purely visual. Mm-hmm. This blue, that blue. Or I could be seeing of this blue and of that blue and have some analytical, this is the same blue. So I want us to leave space for the possibility that this is entirely seeing. I'm not trying to say it is the seeing. Right. I don't want us to naturally say, well, they're the same. It must be that I have some cognitive comparison going on. I don't want us to do that.
Right. No, that first point that you made sounded more correct. Like, yeah, I was seeing the similar colors and they kind of, or in my opinion, they were similar colors.
My blue registrations, my blue visualization is somehow noticing that it's the same blue over there as it is over here.
Yeah, or like a similar color, yeah. Like it kind of, something about it was very cohesive, yeah.
Okay.
And is there anything else going on at the moment of the beep, Amber?
Nope.
Then I think I'm good.
I'm good too. Number 5.
Okay. Okay, so number 5. I was looking at a computer and at the moment of the beep, I was looking at like a group of files and they were all highlighted. And they are highlighted as kind of like dark blue, like a I don't know, like a normal blue crayon kind of blue, like almost like the blue of like Facebook or something. And I could physically also feel my face like scrunching, kind of like how I'm doing it right now, like scrunching. I wasn't really squinting. I was kind of scrunching, like I was thinking. No idea what I was thinking about. That wasn't there, all that stuff like that. But I was scrunching my face. I could feel it in my like eyebrows. And I was paying attention to kind of like the blue highlights. Like it was like blue, 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 and there were like these little like gaps in between them because that's what I was seeing. And but I wasn't paying attention to what the files were labeled or the name of anything or what even was highlighted. It was just blue, 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 and then like the scrunching of my like eyebrows and my face.
And is the blue, blue, blue more or less prominent or equal to the scrunchiness?
I would say a little bit more.
Okay. And is the blue, 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 does that seem like one experience? I'm seeing blue bars, or does it seem like I'm going from one to one to one to one to one?
I'm seeing blue bars, like a cluster of them, or a group, or a...
So this is a vision. I see the blueness of the several bars.
Yes. Or well, I'm seeing the bars and they're blue. Like I don't know if that's a better way to put it, because I wouldn't say I was drawn to the blueness. It was just that's just how they looked, and they were blue, and I was experiencing that they were blue.
So I'm drawn to this visual display, which happens to be blue and happens to be bars, but I'm not particularly interested in the blue and not particularly interested in the bars, but I am drawn to the blue bar display.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then I also feel my eyebrows scrunching.
Yeah.
I feel my face scrunching mostly in my eyebrow.
Yes.
And is there anything more to say about that?
Not really, no.
So this is a physical sensation.
Yes.
And I would say that it goes along with thinking. This is what I do when I think, but but my thinking isn't present to me.
Nope, not at this moment, no.
So I've got two sensory displays going on here. One visual, bar, blue bar, blue bar, blue bar. And the other physical, foreheady, eyebrowy.
Yeah, yeah.
And the rest of the stuff is more or less context. That these are files, they have names.
Yeah.
I'm on a computer, I'm doing this project, whatever.
Yeah.
All that stuff is a correct fact of the universe, but not present in my experience at the moment.
Nope. Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to point out that I didn't see the names or anything like that as part of my experience. It was just lines. It's kind of
and when you say I didn't see the names, do you mean that literally, that I see bars and there are no names in my experience, even though I know there are names in the bars? Or do you mean, well, there were probably names there, but I wasn't really paying attention to it. I was interested in the blue aspect of it.
No, in my experience, there were like no names. I was just seeing the bars as blue.
So your visual experience has eliminated the bars.
The names, yeah.
The names. So it's not just that I'm not particularly interested in, so I'm not paying attention to that. It's that my visual processor has erased the verbal stuff and left me only the bars to see.
Yeah, it erased like the text that were within them. Yeah, they weren't.
Okay. Then I think I'm good.
Yep, I'm good as well. All right, okay. Beep 6.
Okay, so beep 6, I was trying to get sour cream to put on a baked potato, and I was eating this baked potato. So at the moment of the beep, I was like eating it, so I was tasting it, but I was also seeing, there's a lot of seeing, but I was seeing like, so the way the container was, it had like whipped butter and it had sour cream on, like, it was like a small little dressing container and it had whipped butter in it as well as sour cream on the other side. So I was like the moment of the beep, I was seeing my fork, like the edge of the fork with the tines, lifting the butter up to get to sour cream underneath it. As well as tasting it. But the tasting was very little. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is mostly not the tasting. It was present, but that's not the center of it, at least right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And when you say this is like a seeing of the fork, this is the seeing of an action that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
But this is a visual experience, right? This is a...
Yes. Yes. And in like my experiential processing field, I very much zeroed on this whole situation happening here. Like rather than everything else in the background, I very much zeroed on this, on the edge of my fork and the butter like this, and then like lifting it up kind of thing.
And is that zeroing in? Like, is that just, I'm only seeing this? Is that just simply to say, I'm just seeing this? Or is there like, I'm intentionally focusing or something?
I'm only seeing that, and it's like extremely close to me. Like it's extremely close. That's how I'm seeing it. Like it's right in front of me. And I'm sure it was right in front of me. I don't know. But in my experience, that's what it was.
Almost like a zoomed in seeing of it. And zoomed, is that literal? Like I'm like, even though obviously like, I mean, you're doing this, right? But does it feel like this is like, experientially, I'm seeing this as if it's like close up, closer than what's actually happening in real life?
Yeah, I truthfully am not even sure if it was, who knows if it was that close or not, because in my experience, it was super close.
I'm seeing a super close
like
lifting. I'm seeing the fork lifting the butter.
Yeah, in this little container.
And is this a visual experience? You're doing it. Your hands are doing it, but you're not experiencing that doing it. Might as well be me doing it.
Yeah.
And,
I wasn't even seeing my hands. Actually, I was just seeing the fork.
And not experiencing yourself as doing it.
No.
This is a I'm seeing it happen, not a I'm doing it and seeing it happen.
Yes.
Okay.
And just to clarify, I know you said this before, but what exactly are you seeing? The fork, the butter?
The edge of the fork, like the part with all the tines on it, and then the it's like it's underneath like whipped butter. It's like butter that almost looks like ice cream. So I don't know if that's whipped butter, but it's butter that looks like ice cream. So it's like lifting it up. So it's like the fork is underneath it already. The butter is up, and I can see the sour cream underneath it as well, like as part of the whole picture. Like it's there.
And do I see the container too?
Like on the outskirts, like this little the container was like a circle. So it was on the outskirts.
But this is mostly just the fork supporting the butter with the mound of sour cream underneath.
Yeah. Like if I had to paint a picture, it would be mostly that, but then that would be on the outskirts of the whole painting or whatever.
Okay. And is there anything more to say about the seeing? Is this emotion still?
It's still.
So I understand you to be saying about the close-upness, that this is sort of exaggeratedly close up. Maybe it was really that close up, I don't know, but the close-upness was the thing about this. Is that right?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it presented itself as extremely close.
Mm-hmm. And in my head, that is more or less similar to the blue bars of the previous beep in the sense that you've erased the text out of the blue bars, even though your eyes are seeing it, your experience isn't. And here you have close up, zoomed in on this thing, which is probably not the way it is in the real life, but as far as your experience is concerned, so do those seem the same to you? Or?
I wouldn't say they're the same, because in this one, I just obliterated almost like the background, like everything around it. Rather than the blue bars, I obliterated something as part of it, like the details of butter and stuff were there. Like the details of the thing were there. But the back, everything else around it, like if it's like this, everything from is gone. But in terms of the blue bars, that one I feel like I was omitting a detail of the, like if I paint a picture of it, I'd be omitting a detail of the painting rather than omitting the background or whatever's around it, the surrounding area.
So the what I want to know is similar. So you answered a question which is not the question that I wanted to ask.
Okay.
So let me try again.
Okay.
It seems to me, I'm wondering whether this is true, but I'm wondering that you're bringing this thing closer than it deserves to be is in some ways similar to your taking out the letters that deserve to be there.
Oh, yes.
That this is Amber sort of creatively distorting her visual experience for her own ends, whatever it is. I mean, she's interested in the details of whatever it is she's seeing, so she's bringing it right here. Or she's not interested in the words, so she's just erased them.
Yes, yes.
And I think I'm good.
Yeah. And then on the tasting, Amber, is there anything more to say about that?
No. I mean, I was perceiving myself as tasting it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And it was like, again, another really low, less than 20% kind of thing. It was super low. Yeah.
Okay. And tasting as opposed to say like, you know, feeling the potato in my mouth or
no, it was
like
tasting.
Tasting. Okay. Then I think I'm good.
You too. So we've been talking about when we should be done with this, and I'm thinking we should do it one more time.
Okay.
You in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay.